last time you heard a great story or saw a fantastic video or an interesting photo? Well, think about it. Where did you see that story? 9 times out of 10, it was on social media. And while social media used to be the place where you share baby photos and recipes, now don't get me wrong, I love chubby cheeks photos of babies, and I do need some recipes for my potluck. But for our purposes, we're going to talk about how you could use social media to leverage in your career. Because it's not just about the stories that we tell with our friends and family, it's also about the stories that we tell in social innovation and for social entrepreneurs to make sure that you're getting the word out about your project and your cause with your mission, leveraging your career. That's what we're going to be talking about, how you use social media to make sure that you're getting the message out about your project, about your mission, about whatever it is that you're working on to get more people involved and get the word out. So let's put it into perspective, shall we? According to the agency We Are Social, 28% of the population is using social media. That's 2 billion people. So that means that somebody somewhere is going to be interested in what you're saying. Someone is going to be interested in your mission, in your social cause, in your entrepreneurship. Well, let's also think about the fact that across the globe, more than half of the people are using smartphones. Yeah, those little devices that we stay on all day making phone calls and texting. Yeah, those. So you may not have a computer across the globe, but you will have a smartphone. That means you have an opportunity to reach people where they are in real time, telling great stories about your mission and about your cause. So when we start thinking about social media, one of the things you need to think about is, where do you get started? Well, you have to start with the platform, right? There are a multitude of platforms across the country, and globally there's Qzone and LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, the list goes on and on and on. So we're going to be talking about some of the more popular social media sites here in the United States. And we'll start big and we'll go small, right? So we've got Facebook, the most popular one on the planet. I know you've heard the rumors that it's going out of style. It is not. Then we've got Twitter that you're going to use for real live, real-time stories. We've got Instagram for fantastic visuals, Snapchat, and to a lesser degree, LinkedIn. Well, you're going to use social media, right? You want to figure out where to get started. First thing you want to do is figure out who's your demographic, who's your audience, who are you going to be speaking to on social media. If you have an older audience, then certainly you want to be on Facebook. Yeah, that's where your moms and dads and grandmoms are, but those are some of the people you may be wanting to reach for your project or your social innovation. If you're talking about millennials, then it's Snapchat. That's where they're going to be. Twitter is often effective for real life, fast-paced news stories. I like to think of Twitter as a global chat room, right? So it's going out in real time, it's going very fast. I often use Twitter myself when I'm doing conferences. I might live tweet from a conference, or if I am in the middle of a catastrophe, if there's some world event that you're trying to get out, Twitter is that fast pace for you. Okay. So you figured out you definitely want to use social media. These are free platforms, by the way, so that makes it great for some of you social entrepreneurs on a budget. Now, the platforms are free, but sometimes the people that you need to employ to use them are not, but the platforms themselves are free. You figured out your audience, the age group, the demographic, and you figured out globally where they are. Now you want to start thinking about what you should share. You want to tell stories that are going to ring true for people, pull at their heartstrings, make them care about what you care about. Now, I said a little bit earlier that there are all these billions of people who are using social media, so there's somebody somewhere who's going to be involved with or passionate about something that you want to talk about in social media. Okay, so we've picked a platform, we've figured out who our demographic was, we're getting ready to tell great stories. One of the architects of a great story in social media is visuals. Visuals, visuals, visuals. Did I mention visuals? Great, fantastic visuals that are going to tell a story. Let's think about this story. You see a photo of a puppy, and the puppy's malnutrition, and somebody, discarded him, and he looks so sad. And then right next to that is going to be the puppy miraculously come back to life from whatever social organization it was that decided that the rights of animals are important. The story is told in 2 different photos, side by side, and you really don't have to use a whole lot of words to tell the story. right? So as you start thinking about how you build your story, what would resonate with other people? What kind of themes would you be able to talk about that would go across the globe to everyone else who might be interested in what you're interested in your community, whether or not it's clean water or better infrastructure? These are things that can translate globally, and we want to make sure that you're using social media most effectively. Okay, so we talked about using social media, we talked about the platform, we talked about the demographics, we've talked about creativity. Now let's talk about who's going to listen to your story. You need someone to share it. So you want to find advocates, people in your community who are going to share your story to larger audience. Now these don't have to be celebrities, they don't have to be big government officials. There are people who are going to be advocates for your cause. We call them influencers. Now I like to be politically correct when I'm using social media, so if you retweet me, I'll retweet you. If you post something that I posted, I'm going to post something back to you. I also like to use the rule of 80-40. So 80% of the time, it's social engagement, right? Because it's called social media. So you want to be able to talk to people and have something interesting to say to them that's going to resonate with your audience. Now remember, you figured out who they were, right? You know what their demographic is. You're using the proper platform. And now you want to share stories that are going to be interesting. That's about 60 to 80% of the time. The rest of the time is the ask, what we call the ask. You want them to do something. You want them to fund a project, you want them to call their congressman in protest, you want them to do something for you. That's the ask. But that is not something that you want to do every single day, because this is about growing your audience and, again, sharing great stories that are social as a part of social engagement. Okay, now how do they find you? They don't know you're out there, right? It's the hashtag. Hashtag, you want to rock that hashtag. So the hashtag could be something unique and should be something unique to your project or your mission. But you also want to join in other conversations. So you're going to look for, I don't know, hashtag social entrepreneur or hashtag social innovation, hashtag leader. That will put you in conversations with others who may not even know you're out there, may not be following you, may not know the conversation got started, but now because you use the hashtag, they know what you're talking about and they want to be able to get involved and get in the conversation as well. Also remember geographic location. So I'm in Washington, D.C. Oftentimes when I post here, I do hashtag DC. If it's an event, at a theater event, I might do a hashtag for DC, I might do hashtag for theater, I might do hashtag for culture. So just think about the different conversations that you want to interject yourself into. Okay, so you figured out your audience, you have your platform, you've got creative posts, you have fabulous, beautiful visuals, and by the way, don't get hung up too much on the visuals, right? They don't have to be perfect. Your smartphone will suffice to take great photos or short video clips that you can share on Instagram, Facebook, and now Twitter. And hey, the great thing about Twitter is now your photos and video are not going to go towards the character count. Isn't that great? Because you only have 140 characters, and as you can see, I talk a lot, so I don't know how I'm going to get 140 characters in, but somehow I get to do it, right? So let's now talk about how you're going to promote. Who gets to see this? Where does it get seen? It's not enough to just put it on Facebook or just put it on Twitter. You want to be able to share it to your website or your blog if you have one, but also you want to tag people in the story. So for instance, if you're doing something with Legacy International, you want to go ahead and find out what Legacy's handle is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and tag them. If you're doing something with the State Department, you want to find them also and go ahead and tag them, because that's going to get you in front of a larger audience. Social media now has become some of the preferred ways that people communicate. Bumping up against traditional media, social media is often the first place that people go to when they're trying to get their news, for better or for worse. It's the place where people go. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat, that's where they're going to get their news. So you've got their attention, now what? The best advice that I can give you is to be authentic. Be true to yourself, truly authentic. If you're telling a story that's coming from the heart, and this is about a project or your business or something that you feel really strongly about, it's going to resonate with people. It's going to connect with them. You don't have to make a big elaborate stories, right? You want to inform them. So in journalism, it's the who, what, when, where, and why. And I want you to use those who, what, when, where, and whys, but I want you to weave it in a way that's creative and pulls at heartstrings while you're still giving people the basic information. Now, I know culturally, it's very uncomfortable for some people to brag. It's not acceptable to be braggadocious. This is who I am, this is what I'm doing. A lot of people don't like that or feel comfortable doing that. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is not think about this as bragging about yourself, but think about this as telling a wonderful story and bragging about your cause or your project or your mission. That's the story. Not so much about you, but the good work that you're doing. So we've talked about a lot of different ways for you to use social media, and I'm hoping you found value in it. With this stage, now we're going to talk about sharing. Facebook is a great place to go back and forth to have conversations. And again, I shared with you a little bit earlier that the demo's a little older. But the great thing about Facebook is that you can have lengthy conversations. You can keep up with the thread. I'm going to let you in on a little secret, though. The little guy in the back doing the little wheel, trying to turn everything, the algorithms guy. All right, here's the thing. On a personal Facebook page, Mark Zuckerberg has figured out that he doesn't want to go by the way of MySpace. Do you all even know what MySpace is? Anyway, he doesn't want to go by the way of MySpace. So on a personal page, they want you to share those baby photos that I was talking about a little bit earlier, and birthday wishes and recipes. Not so much news photos or news articles, and not so much things that are heavy with businesses and missions, right? So how do you get around that algorithm? The way to get around that algorithm is to make sure that you're getting a lot of shares, not likes, but shares. Shares have more weight than likes because I can like something and click and keep going, right? But with the share, I've made a personal investment to make sure that I take the information and I share it with my friends. If you don't have a full staff that can come and help you, and I mean, who among us does, then call on your army of advocates that we talked about earlier, call on your influencers that we talked about earlier to like and share your posts. Now, if you're doing a business page on Facebook, it gets a little bit trickier because Mark Zuckerberg does want to make money off of this platform, and he feels as though, or rather Facebook as a whole feels as though, for a business page, they want you to pay for those ads. So it's even less likely that somebody's going to see your post, and even more important that you have people like and share to beat the algorithm. Now, I didn't tell you to beat the algorithm, did I? I'm just giving you some examples. What you really want to do is go get a budget and pay for ads. Yeah, that's what you want to do, pay for ads. Okay, let's move over to Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram. They're integrated. Facebook also owns WhatsApp. They're integrated. On Instagram, you want to share visually beautiful photos and visually beautiful video. It started really for just photos, but as you can tell now, it's moved into a whole different sphere. But for the purpose of the storytelling for your mission and for what you're doing in your social entrepreneur space, think about your Instagram as a visual storyboard of the message that you're trying to get across. On Instagram, you can have a lot more hashtags, a lot. And I would encourage you to do that. The more hashtags that you have, the more conversations that you're going to get into. I talked about a little bit earlier Twitter, and Twitter being in real-time news feed, and I would use that as a way to connect with people that you're not currently connected with, but to also keep people up to date with what's happening. And again, in real time. It could be a meeting that you're having. It could be a new invention that you're thinking about. That's what I would see you using Twitter for. Snapchat are those quick and easy stories that used to disappear, but now you can save. One of the things I would encourage you to do for your businesses, however, is to go ahead and get some geotagging so that when people are doing their snaps, it pops up as a location for wherever you are. I think, LinkedIn, that's the last thing. LinkedIn, I know that many of you, wherever you are around the globe, may not be able to use Facebook, may not be able to use Twitter, but are able to use LinkedIn. I'd like you to keep that professional. So that has a different tone than some of the other social media spaces. And I liken it to, if you would not feel comfortable having that story on the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post, don't post it. That's actually a great rule across the board. The last thing I want to talk about is trolling. When you're out there in the social space, oftentimes people try to drag you into arguments. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You're not going to change anybody's mind, and half the time those accounts that are arguing with you are not real. The best feature in social media that I like is the block button. So if you find yourself getting into an argument with somebody, go find that block button, keep it, click it, and move on. Social media has changed our landscape. It certainly has changed it for me and my business, and I'm convinced that it's going to change it for you. But how we use social media is our responsibility. We're in control of how we tell that story and how we use social media to get the word out about the good work that I know you all are doing. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you online. I'm real easy to find. It's Danielle Ricks everywhere. So it's at DanielleRicks on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Twitter, on Google+, and on LinkedIn. Please do connect with me. I'd love to hear how it's going. I'm available to answer questions for you. Send me direct messages, send me inbox messages. I'll respond back, and I'll see you online.